I guess I'll record.
With you all the way.
This is problematic. Lion, 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 lion.
！Trainee Forest Ranger Kale, reporting.
一緒に蘇るスーパーライオン。ライオン、ライオン、ライオン、ライオン、ライオン。
Try this on for size. Hi! No. Not this.
I think Rachel would be better in this team. Straight up. Nalagay ko kay Ma'am kung hindi ko rin ngayon.
Somehow, I feel even more tense after playing a few matches than I did before.
It's a freak, your team.
In the name of the Prinzessin. Oz, reveal thyself.
Thanks.
Freeze! your luck.
The threads of your fate lie in my hands.
I just switched to Jason Harpoon actually.
Try this on for size. Oh, I have failed. Let the show begin. The threads of your fate lie in my hands.
No rest for the wicked.
You know, Bloom doesn't seem all that powerful. That sounds crazy since I'm the one saying it. But in the card game, yeah, +2 damage. It's actually +1. But like the only way you can do this is if you have a Dendro, Hydro, and then Pyro or Electro. You can't do Dendro Resonance. Unless I'm stupid somehow, you actually can. Still get the resonance for Bloom. Aw.
I feel a little weak.
Oh, they both take place and they don't add to each other? That's really lame. That should have killed Kaya.
Freeze!
Trainee Forest Ranger Kale, reporting. Go!
I'm not done.
As you can see, all my checklists for combat in order. I've been blessed by my ancestors. I've limbered up with some stretches.
I
I've
enjoyed
already
playing
mentally
with you.
prepared myself into believing that slaughtering another human being for living in a different country than I do is perfectly okay. A fulfilling lunch consisting exclusively of Doritos and Mountain Dew. Gamer fuel variety, of course. I've got to get a lock on those Call of Duty Vanguard dual XP codes. I'm also going to put this shield down because it is exceedingly heavy. But most importantly, I'm properly dressed. And no, I'm not talking about this luxuriously tailored suit that I wear for all instances of war and dead time. I'm talking about this. This high-frequency, expertly calibrated, dual-action, divine-crafted Masubi blade is part of my uniform. The most important part of my uniform. Because I'm operating by the wartime wisdom bestowed upon me by the subject of this video. This video is about perhaps the most batshit insane soldier to ever live, who took combat as an opportunity to either play his own real-life version of Devil May Cry, or an opportunity to respec himself as a bard class and see how well that worked out on the beaches of fucking Normandy. Let's back up a little bit. Let's get a little context. And let's talk about the man who gave me reason to make sure I'm carrying around this 10,000 times twisted steel when I scuffle with an enemy. No matter the caliber of their gun barrel I happen to be sucking on. This video is about fighting Jack Churchill, otherwise known as Mad Jack. Jack Churchill was slated to be a military man his entire life. He graduated from the Royal Military College of Sandhurst in 1926, and served in Burma thereafter with the Manchester Regiment. Burma is a country now known as Myanmar, and it's just northwest of Thailand. Don't worry, I got you covered. No one knows what shit is unless they live there. While digging around in Burma, Jack specialized in three things. The first was riding his motorcycle. And I mean he specialized in riding his motorcycle. Burma at the time wasn't exactly the epicenter of good roads. In fact, in 1909 they received the official Country with the Most Shitty Roads You Should Feel Bad About Having award by the World Coalition of Transportation and Roads. Which is funny, because it was their fourth consecutive year winning that award when the World Coalition of Transportation and Roads was only founded in 1907. Everyone knows that. Jack rode his motorcycle on a 1,500-mile trip through Burma, on both barely functional paved roads and dirt trails reminiscent to when you check your pubic hair happy trail after not showering for a week. At one point during the trip, he crashed into a water buffalo. The water buffalo wanted to be a real dick about it by calling the police and exchanging insurance for an unnoticeable fender bender. But Jack was quick to point out that the only bits of paint that were damaged could be easily sprayed over, and he would offer the water buffalo $50 for his trouble. And when this did not appease the large land animal mammal's stubbornness, Jack remembered that water buffalo have one weakness: a swift kick to the testicles. After an iron-toed boot roundhouse, he was on his way. During these years, Jack also learned to play the bagpipes. Out of every wonderful melodious instrument you'd seen carried around the war front, from guitar to harmonica to the trumpet, Jack heard the sounds of a goat vocal cords being strangled and said, huh, yeah, the bagpipes. That thing that sounds like when you take a fucking water buffalo and rip out its intestines through its anus. That's the instrument I should learn. He also wasn't Scottish. At all. 0% heritage.
We can do this!
Like the bagpipes, but trying to rule out any connection this man might have had to the instrument constructed from the sound of a mosquito trying to yell its best impression of what the bells of hell sound like show you what kind of man Jack really was. But if you ask anyone who's ever served in the Army, ever, or the Navy, or the Marines, or the Air Force, they'll say that military service is fucking boring. Well, except for the Air Force. They'll say, it was the most frightening experience of my life. The vending machine ran out of regular Mountain Dew and I had to get a diet one. It was the most fearsome combat my squadron had seen in over 50 years. So Jack, a rip-fire human with 10 times the sense of drive compared to an average man, decided to quit the Army to try out some more noble pursuits, including getting ladies to drop their panties. That's right. Up on the list of careers Jack went for after concluding that he could end more lives if he wasn't held down by an official army, male modeling was one of them. If there's any surviving pictures of him as a model, I'll put them on the screen now. If there's not, I'll put on some footage of something oddly satisfying behind me because, god damn it, content creation is becoming so fucking soulless. Oh my god. Statistically, he'll never make it. Jack also became a pretty skilled archer throughout his adolescence, culminating in him representing Great Britain in the World Archery Championships in 1939. All of this is relevant and building to something, don't worry. Oh, and speaking of
I
building to
wonder
something,
when I'll be as tall.
1939. Huh. It's a pretty important year. Something might have happened in 1939 that was kind of important. Kind of a big deal. Oh, fuck. Finally, some fucking action, thought Jack. World War II was finally the fuck underway. And as a British man, he had all sorts of reasons to be fired up and pissed. Although Jack had ducked out to showcase his cock on the regular, he was still part of the reserve officer list. And I think the largest conflict in human history is a pretty dang good reason to be called back into active duty. And now, we finally get to talk to what earned him the nicknames Fighting Jack Churchill, Mad and It's Time for Jack the Ripper to Blare Rip. World War II was arguably the greatest leap forward in technology for the history of mankind. You had 1,001 ways to kill a man, and those methods were only becoming more efficient with time. If you look at just the individual infantry soldiers' options, we have rifle, carbines, pistols, submachine guns, high-caliber machine guns, mines, shotguns, grenades, and grenade launchers, knives, and really any piece of thing that you've seen in any World War II fiction ever. Have you played the old Call of Duties? Watch Saving Private Ryan? That. But if your weapon of choice is Chekhov's gun, you can probably guess what I'm about to say next.
Nice.
Jack's weapon of choice for a war fought almost exclusively by guns, tanks, and bombs was a longbow. His rationale was that in the hands of a skilled marksman, such as, maybe someone who competed in the World Archery Championships, a bow was accurate up to 200 yards, and was a mere silent option of severing a man's jugular. And made him feel like his favorite superhero Legolas from Lord of the Rings, a book that would be a smash hit seller 14 years in the future. Oh yeah, big deal, you're probably saying, as you skeptically fold your arms and pretend that you have muscles to hide how scrawny you are. So he carry around a bow. Who cares? It's just a gimmick. Dude probably never even saw combat with it. Fuck you! This is my video, not yours, and you're wrong. During one particularly silly battle, Churchill killed an approaching German soldier using his longbow, and then dual-wielded 2 machine guns, despite being shot in the shoulder, to fight back the remaining German soldiers as his company moved into position. Okay, so it doesn't say specifically in the research that dual-wielded the 2 machine guns, just that he used 2 different guns to fight. This is mad motherfucking Jack Churchill we're talking about, so I'm going to assume that he was dual-wielding his fucking machine guns. But more importantly, you know how the longbow was a world-defining weapon and played a cornerstone role in pretty much all of the history's important battles ever? Well, that Robin Hooding of a man that Jack did is the last recorded longbow kill in human history. Now, the source for that is Vice News, former cutting-edge journalism empire and current clickbait farm, so...
I often try and put things in front of the camera. Getting some flowers for a photograph of me.
Might be true. Nazi Germany, a word that I shudder to use because YouTube may demonetize this whole video despite the fact that I'm using it in an entirely historical and educational context, tended to have its grimy claws embedded in nearly all parts of the European world. There was a sizable amount of garrisons, stores, and fish oil factories up in ball-shrinkingly cold Vagsoy, Norway? Vugsoy? Vagasoy? Here it is on the screen. There you go. After finding out this fact, Mad Jack promptly put down his newspaper and said, "Oh, hell no!" and commenced a raid on Germany's northern Norway bunkers. To rally his men to stay optimistic while their testicles were currently finding a new home 18 inches inside their body cavities, Churchill blasted March of the Cameron Men on his bagpipes, and then started hurling grenades left and right at the Germans. It's not even specified if he did that once the raid began, or just started jamming out tunes and lobbing explosions
Scatter!
on the schedule.
Don't be scared.
Successfully, nevertheless.
Let's
Hey,
dance.
watching wrong.
Yeah.
Breaking the fourth
Go,
wall,
Buck.
calling the psycho.
Fire hazard.
Reading your memory card to find out that I guess baby, don't you? Right now I'm asking you a question. Even though I'm slightly out of focus because my camera's focused for over there. Earlier I told you that Mad Jack was a skilled archer.
My guiding
and
stars.
bagpipe enthusiast. Killed a man with a longbow, and he used a bagpipe as a signal to commence charging the enemy. Tell me, knowing those two things and what I've mentioned throughout this video, what do you think Jack's third iconic weapon of war was? That's right, a full-size Scottish broadsword. Probably didn't have the gamer version. Jack's claymore of choice was not the thing that you use in Call of Duty to get a bullshit-free unearned kill. It was the human-sized piece of steel you find in Castle Morn toward the southernmost tip of the Weeping Peninsula, and you better shut the fuck up if you think he held it for just aesthetic purposes. While slaughtering racists in Sicily, you know, the little thingy at the end of the food of Italy that's been kicked
Germinate!
around.
Propagate! Stars, shine for me. Not now. Let the show begin.
42 German
I'll
soldiers
protect
from an
us.
artillery team
Outstanding.
and I can now finally give you this book that he had of
Time for a light show.
Check out that piece of shit again. Mad Jack famously said of the incident, "In my opinion, an officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly friends." Also, for
The
that
night is
particular
cold.
scuffle, Mad Jack was nominated for the Victoria Cross, which is the Medal of Honor but for Britain, which means not as valuable but a little more important, which is the general prestige for anyone who was called a duty.
Not now.
Jack didn't
Let
get
the
his
show
Victoria Cross,
begin.
but he did earn the Distinguished
Right?
Service Orders. Twice. Meaning he basically got 2
Propagate.
silver. Doing more world touring with Children's Bizarre Adventure Part 3 Stardust Crusaders, Jack shipped off to Yugoslavia to find another creative way to end a man's life while scaring the piss out of it. While playing through the fire and the flames on his bagpipes, a nearby explosion knocked Jack unconscious. There it is. He awoke in Sachsenhausen concentration camp. And, let's just say those places aren't made to help you concentrate on your homework. Initially, the Germans figured that since this guy's last name was Churchill, he must be related to Winston Churchill, the roly-poly jolly man shaking his jowls in the leader's chair of Great Britain. And so while they still tortured the shit out of Jack Churchill, he was locked up in a special super-duper big boy cell, which he escaped. Because he's Mad Jack Motherfucker Churchill. But he was recaptured. Probably because the German soldiers heard his bagpipes from over 20 miles away. This time they moved him to an even more secure prison in Austria, which he escaped. Yep. Details on this next part seem pretty conflicting. Jack hiked his ass off post-war camp escape to get away from the Germans, that's not of any doubt. One record says he walked 93 miles to Verona, Italy. Another says he walked over 100 and stopped to cook vegetable stew of stolen Nazi crops to give him energy. Another claimed he traveled over 150 miles while limping on a bad ankle by sneaking aboard trains and hopping them to Verona. Doesn't matter. The important details he got to Verona and was picked up by some Americans, who spent the entire jeep ride back telling him how America had been carrying the entire war on their back, and they without a doubt put the most effort into fighting and had the most devastating losses. No contest, bro. And so, after all that crazy bullshit, Captain Jack entered his 40s, and it was time to do what any aging soldier does, and never give up, never surrender, and ask to be put back on the front with the most action. Fuck yeah. Mad Jack requested he be transferred to Burma because he wanted to stare the Japanese in their eyes and get a dozen chances to practice his badass, culturally insensitive, but accepted at the time, one-liners that he would use before ending a man's life. But it never happened. Because just as Mad Jack had made it to the front of the Pacific Theater to finish the fight, Little Boy and Fat Man decided to make craters out of once was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mad Jack realized that although no man on Earth could stand up to his boundless energy, a nuclear bomb is a harder thing to tussle with. So he decided to stand back and let the explosions do the talking instead of charging headlong into the island nation of Japan. But he wasn't happy about it. He was quoted as saying, "If it wasn't for those damn Yanks, we could have kept this war going on for another 10 years. Which, if you think about it, means Mad Jack wanted this war to go on for as long as possible. And to that end, he enjoyed fighting just for the sake of it, which gives me 2 bullets in my gun of interesting facts. Number 1, Jack didn't really seem to care who he was fighting, as long as he was fighting. And 2, the Metal Gear Solid series continues to be the most prophetic
I want to help.
and absolutely accurate piece of fictional media ever written. So use some fucking context clues and you tell me what happened next. Did you say that Jack found a new war to fight in? Because you're goddamn right he did. Jack went over to the safest and most vacation-friendly city on the planet, Jerusalem. And he shacked
Stay
up with
clear.
the stationed British forces at the time to help them fight against the Arab army. He's credited for having saved over 5
Cold. Mine to command.
after rescuing the
Ah!
hospital's patients and
Scatter!
staff that were taken hostage
The
during
fuse is lit.
the medical convoy massacre, which is exactly what and as bad as it sounds. After finally getting his fill of visiting foreign countries and fucking stomping the shit out of them inside and out, Jack returned to England. If you thought his newfound life of riding his motorcycle and refurbishing boats was going to be
Animal
straightforward,
test
you haven't
6308.
listened to me talk about Mad Jack Churchill. You were probably too busy vividly imagining what it would look like if you gave your mother cunnilingus until she orgasmed pussy juice on your face.
I'll take
You were
care of
imagining
it.
that? Well, now you are. And now I'm going to tell you another Jack Churchill fact. During this much quieter lifestyle, Jack managed to find a kooky way to fuck with people, as he often did. Whenever he rode the train home from work, he would often open up the windows, stand up, make sure everyone was watching, and launch his briefcase outside. Now, the part he didn't tell them is that he lived near enough to the tracks that he could throw his briefcase into his backyard as the train went by. He later explained he did this so he wouldn't have to carry it all the way home from the train to his house. If you're a 90-year-old British man who witnessed this in person and just had to trick secrets
I'll
from you,
protect us. My guiding stars.
I'm glad I could
Ha!
do service. And
Tight
following
row like
along
Joe.
with that, before I reveal this trick, I claimed that the thought of you having oral sex with your mother or shocking against the cultural program. Now, most incredible, after all this, Jack did what any of us would have done. He got old. But he made it all the way to 1996 before he died at the age of 89. And I say incredibly, because Jack was anything but an ordinary man. Sure, while there's potentially infinitely nuanced psychological ramifications of being a man who tosses aside his own safety to slaughter enemy combatants with a fucking broadsword, Jack made sure to be the person who let nothing stop him. His entire biography reads like a man who didn't calculate the most clever or cautious approach to life, but rather he would just immediately settle on the most straightforward and fun for him approach no matter what, the danger. World War II gave us implements to kill each other the world had never seen before. And yet Mad Jack just wanted to cleave some skulls, practice his archery, and play some fat hymns on his sheepskin instrument. The rest of his life reads like Jack's an action TV star, and his villain of the week is whatever wacky shit he intentionally decided to place himself into. There's a lot of credit to be given to someone who does what they want. Jack, Life didn't have multiple paths. There was only ever Mad Jack's way of doing things. Oh. It happened again. Every time I talk about Mad Jack, I instantly prepare myself for armed combat. He's just that badass. Before I go fight, I don't know, someone who doesn't agree with me politically, I think it's best to summarize Mad Jack with a quote directly from him, said sometime after he retired from military service. People are less likely to shoot you if you smile at them.
The new book from Yai Publishing House.
A couple of months ago, I made a video on what I thought was the best cup of Mario Kart Deluxe and the series as a whole to start. This contains some of the best tracks in the series like Mount Wario and Electro. However, that's what's known as a Nitro Cup, meaning it's entirely made up of tracks that were specifically created for Mario Kart 8. In my opinion, there are three different cup types of Mario Kart. Nitro, as we just said, Retro Cups,
What are you doing here?
Retro tracks, and Mixed Cups, which have a combination of tracks. Today, I want to take a look at that second category, because what makes a good retro track is fairly different from what makes a good Nitro track. Not only do you have to keep what made the original so good, but you also have to adapt it into the new game. So I want to cover what I believe to be the best retro cup in the Mario Kart series, that being the Lightning Cup. Welcome to another episode of Bubble by Love. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the 4 tracks included in this cup and explain why I believe each of them contributes to making this cup so good. Oh, I should probably say what those tracks are, huh? The 4 in the Lightning Cup are TikTok Clock for Mario Kart DS, Piranha Plant Slide for Mario Kart 7, Rebel Volcano for Mario Kart Wii, and Rainbow Road for Mario Kart 64. So without much more delay, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's jump right into the first track. First up, we have TikTok Clock. Now, I want to start each of these segments focusing on the track's aesthetic before getting into the layout. Not only are aesthetics very important on any track, but I think these 4 in particular excel at it. So TikTok Clock, as the name implies, takes place inside of a clock. This is actually one of the few Mario Kart tracks to be based on a location in the mainline series, being TikTok Clock from Mario 64. Seeing as that game is my second favorite Mario game behind Mario Odyssey, I think it's safe to say that I'm a pretty big fan of the idea to include it. I mean, TikTok Clock itself is my favorite person. No other track is similar to it at all, and it makes this one of the most memorable in the series. Many of the elements on the track, like the swinging pendulums, are lifted right from Mario 64. If you look at their design in the original Mario Kart DS version, they are exactly the same. I think now is as good a time as ever to mention the massive blow-up this track and the other 3 tracks got from their original debate. If you've ever heard anyone complain about the used first-pass graphics, the original retro tracks are the reason why. Not only are the graphics just updated to make them look like they're Mario Kart 8 tracks, but the designs themselves have received a pretty big maintenance. I mean, let's just look at TikTok Clock here and compare it to the original. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the background is significantly more populated, having a ton of gears placed around the track. The original background in DS is almost entirely empty, which does make sense on a less powerful piece of hardware. This was a fantastic change that makes the track feel so much more alive. Not only that, but several sections of the track are now more closed in than they were before. Not only does the pendulum section actually have a roof going over it, but the section on top of the several gears is now completely enclosed. I know it's unrealistic to say this, but it makes the track feel sort of like an actual place. The original was just sort of floating over nothing, which again worked in DS, but man, it looks fantastic here. There are so many aesthetic changes for this track.
A lot of the quest.
Face the background more that it'd be impossible to move. If I were to say one thing that was kind of sad about the remake, I sort of like the numbers on the banners in the background in DS, as it was a reference to Mario 64, but it's really not.
What did I do? I've already done this before.
Song, it's a banger. Also, like, they put box out effects.
But this is the first time this has happened.
But aesthetics are obviously not
Where I went around asking other people.
It's a big thing to consider when determining if a track is fun.
Seriously, I swear, I've already said that this idea was good.
Starting off the race, everyone has to go straight up a ramp before taking a sharp left turn.
Stop adding
Right away,
shit
the
to the
characters
characters.
change. In the original on DS, this
Oh,
ramp
no.
turn is much longer and has item boxes. But Mario Kart 8 Deluxe changes this by moving the item boxes onto the block and splitting this ramp into 2. This lets the player turn off the ramp instead of just sticking to it, which is a nice change since tricking wasn't introduced into the game after DS Mario Kart Wii. Speaking of the upcoming clock, this received one of the biggest changes in the entire track. In the original, this was a tight area where players had to avoid clock hands, they would cause the player to spin out and touch. While the player could easily go around them, boost panels were placed near the center to incentivize going closer. I think that system worked fairly well, though I think I do prefer Mario Kart 8's version. Now, instead of the deadly bright red hands, seriously, I really love those. Now the hands act as places to trick on. More importantly though, you can actually ride on top of them to cut through the center of the clock for a short while. This is a really neat addition. It's very difficult to stay on the hands due to how skinny they are, but it makes it all the better when you successfully cross them. We'll see another shortcut like this later, but this is a good introduction to the concept. Clock also has the boost panels from the original, but the outer layer also has some points, which gives the player a choice between speeding the moment or building up points to go faster later. After the clock, we then enter the section with the 2 pendulums. Well, I should say it now has 2 pendulums, because the original track actually only had the second. I think the addition of the other pendulum is nice to add some more action to the track. Both pendulums are placed at jumps in Mario Kart 8 as well, which I also like as the tricking system adds a bit more speed, and since these act as walls instead of damaging obstacles like the original, it causes a much harsher disruption as the player bonks and falls to the ground. Following the pendulums, we get the section that likely changed the most, the moving gears. In the original, you had to ride across these spinning gears, and you had to try and ride on the right side to not slow you down. Mario Kart 8 not only made each gear have a place to jump off of, but they also gave this section a glider ramp. This was an absolutely perfect place to throw this in, as it obviously was a new feature for Mario Kart 7. There's even some points you get in the air while gliding. You can't glide over every gear though, so you do have to still ride on a few, which is nice. Coming off the gears, we reach one of the biggest changes to the layout yet, being the second clock. In the original, this is basically just a copy of the first clock, but in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we only have half of it to drive on. More importantly though, this also is the clock hand shortcut, which I think works even better than the first one due to how difficult turning on the hands can be. Time save here is most worth it though. Since this doesn't require a much at all, this is one of my favorite shortcuts in the series. And finally, to end off this track, we have 2 massive gears facing the finish line, and depending on what lap you reach them, one will be spinning toward the
Not
goal,
now.
and the other will be toward the flag.
Propagate! Let the show begin.
That's it for TikTok Clock. You can tell this is one of my favorite Mario Kart games, period. The idea well executed, all of the circuits in a way that fit a clock beat for
Feels late.
perfect. Shortcuts were such a phenomenal addition to Mario Kart 8, and if you add on the glider ramp and second pendulum, you get one of the best remakes on any track in the series. Already, this cup is off to a fantastic start. Let's see if our second track here, brought up my slide, can keep up the pace. First of all, we got the aesthetics. This is sort of based on older mainline Mario games. Oh geez, so retro! It has a ton of elements ripped straight from them, such as the floating bricks inside the underground, the Koopa of which cutouts look directly taken from Super Mario Bros., and my personal favorite that I didn't actually notice until making this, the ground tiles in this section have the same shape as the ground from Super Mario Bros. Outside of the epic retro aesthetic, this also obviously was based on the underground levels from various Mario games. Surprisingly, this wasn't actually done in a track before this point, despite how common this level thing is, so finally getting on the break. Thanks are also included all
Germinate! Don't be scared. The night is cold. I'll protect
One
us.
thing they nailed it.
Type?
No, I do actually
Run
have
like
one
Joe.
major criticism of Mario Kart 8. In the original, because the underground section was blue, just a quick reference to how they look. However, they changed them to just be normal Goombas in Mario Kart 8. Poor Goombas have been treated so badly lately. I mean, getting removed from here, and then they aren't even available in Mario Maker. We seriously need to get these guys some justice. I feel so bad. Yeah, I don't really have much more to touch on this show. I already mentioned the music a bit, and I think it's pretty good. I like TikTok Clock better, mostly because I never really liked the opening for this song, but otherwise it's great. Alright, onto the layout itself, and spoilers, this did not change nearly as much as TikTok Clock did. That makes total sense though, because this was from the game right before Mario Kart 8. But we're still a few changes to this, we'll get to those when we get there. Starting off the track, we get a jump into some flowing water, which also happens to be the main gimmick of the track. Since the water pushes you forward, it's optimal to stay in it for as long as you can, which makes driving on this track fairly interesting. Jumping off of the water streams brings us into the pipe, which acts as a perfect transition to the underground. The water here is also deep enough for the player to go in feet, which will also play a big part in the race. After returning the underground, we are met face to face with the first piranha plant of the track, along with the 3 ways to the path. The left and right sides both go around them, but the middle acts as a very short. Not only do you have to jump onto a skinny platform where you risk falling off, but the piranha plant can also
lucky day!
generally I don't want to sneak in, but the option is back on first, one section you can do this once again, press this acts pretty solid obstacles using the water making it so much.
Say no more!
After the do is go, we finally get to our first major change.
Let's dance.
In the original, you would jump off the water and on the foot.
Finally,
Each has a different length and you can have something more. Keep reference to the platforming nature of the scene. Mario Kart 8 though, this all stays the same. So the longest one, which was on the left of the original, is now on the right. Personally, I like this change since most people will be jumping on the left. So it now requires a bit of extra effort to drive across. After the blended platforms though, the race is landed back on the ground where a few mini pipes are placed to get coins and trick off. Not only are these cute little additions, but they can be surprisingly deadly. I'm serious, the way you jump off these can easily lead you to flying off again, making this a bit of a larger risk than it may seem. But now we get to the big change from the original to 8, to the underwater section. They decided to implement anti-gravity here, which I think fits in very well, making the segment much more enjoyable. In fact, coming from playing 8's version for so long, it's sort of weird going back to 7. First off, the pipe entrance for 8 is much larger, which I think is perfect considering there are going to be 12 racers in 8 compared to the 8 and 7. Once entering into the underground section, the aesthetic feels almost entirely different. The 7 version is significantly tighter, having the walls right next to the track. In 8, however, the space is much more open, even having some cheap sweet eye. I love what 8 did here, as it makes the track feel so much more grand. It's seriously hard going back to the original. Layout-wise, these are also pretty different. Not only is 8 much larger, but it also got a few different obstacles as well. The 7 version reuses many pipes you saw before, however 8 has some pipes blowing air, which I think is a bit more interesting. Both versions end in a similar way though, as we have a second front plant with a 3-way path. The left is just a standard road, the right has a boost panel, and the middle actually changes based on the lap. As the race goes
Ad
on,
Astra
you'll eventually gain
Abyssosque.
access up the road, which can be used to jump over the front.
Thank you for
Seeing as
completing
that's
to.
essentially what you do with the main series, I think this fits in extremely well.
Ad
Next to the
Astra-
underwater section, we have a fantastically placed glider race. I always love this small segment. Funnily enough, though, this ending bit on the grass before the finish line, I actually think was done better in 7. First off, I think the shortcuts to the bush cutouts are really cute. For some reason, though, the 8 version removed the first one and only kept the second. Not really sure why. Another thing they removed was the second Goomba cutout. In 7, there were 3 Goombas here. 2 cutouts and 1 actual. In 8, though, there's only 1 cutout and 1 actual, which I think makes the ending a bit less chaotic than it should be. Putting that aside, though, I think this remake was also pretty solid. While I wouldn't say it's quite on the level of TikTok Clock, this is still a very solid track. The changes made to the underwater segment far outweigh the negative changes at the end, so I still think this is a pretty good remake. Now it's time for Wii's Grumble Volcano. This is always one of my favorite tracks from that game, similar to how TikTok Clock is one of my favorites from Mario Kart DX. This is based on, get this, a volcano. We've had plenty of lava tracks in the series, but they were all Bowser's Castle, so I think this was a really welcome track. I love the detail of having the question mark and brick blocks scattered around the corners. It really does add a nice bit of color to it. Dead trees and dark red color from the sky really sell the danger of this track. You can even see the several background volcanoes exploding as the race goes on, which is just so perfect. Honestly, the aesthetic between Wii and 8 aren't that different, besides 8 obviously just making everything look nice. The only real major visual change I can think of were the billboards, which I felt like were a bit off the Wii version, so I much prefer the darker 8 ones based on bullet bill and outside of visuals, the music here is another banger. I love listening to this one, and it fits the course so perfectly. Not sure if I prefer this or TikTok Clock, they're both some of my favorite pieces. Now it's time to talk about the land. Starting us off, we right away get a small jump in, which we already start to change. This one is sadly a heartbreak. If you all know anything about the original Wii version of Grumble Volcano, it's likely the ultra shortcut. Essentially, for reasons I don't remember explaining, if you jumped over from the mainland to the small rock in the background, you can actually drive around it and then get it back to the end. This was extremely absurd. It's far from the only one of these ultra shortcuts in Wii, but it's probably the most well known. Being able to skip the whole track is incredibly funny. Is it good game design? No, it's definitely not. But am I sad it's gone? A little bit. Well, regardless, after the first jump, we enter inside the volcano, which gives us a long turn of lava. Then we have to jump onto a moving platform, which I once again like as it sort of influences some more platforming into the track. If I did have to say one thing though, I kinda wish you could trick off. You can trick onto the platform, but for some reason there wasn't a ramp placed on it to jump off, which makes coming off of it feel a bit unsatisfying. After the platform jump though, we are brought to a split path. The left goes on top and the right stays on ground level. I believe they're both the same speed-wise, so it's more just an excuse to have a skated road, which I do like. I personally always go for the top path whenever I can. The two paths quickly recombine and gives us a few platforms to jump off. This is where we get our first major difference.
Scatter!
We just had to jump off the platforms, which work decently, but they
Stars, shine for me. Not now.
Spring forth! Ha! Feel the light!
Honestly, I just wish they could have made it longer. What they have is certainly a shame. I think it's a bit of extra purpose to this piece of
A festive reprise!
but after that point, it's really
Propagate!
Let the show begin.
all the rocks come crashing down from the sky and helps to grab us out of the bottom. It's pretty predictable where the moment lands.
Scatter!
Right here, very difficult to get off.
My guiding stars.
Mine's fire hazard!
This being the second to last track at the top, the difficulty spike here is more than low. I think gives us the choice between two different paths. The left goes up and has the fire snake placed into it, whereas the right path stays down low and is the fire snake to the star. It does however we can cross paths on the one top one. There are plenty of reasons.
Let's dance.
One last addition that Riker 8 made was that the left path falls into the right. This works for the exact same reason we were doing.
The night is cold.
This course comes to
Fuse is lit!
and then it falls apart as the wind is gone. So once that fuse starts, several things are going to come. This is longer in the process.
Propagate!
Stars, shine for me. Not now.
He doesn't perfectly fit a movie in the setting, but it makes each track get more and more intense. Makes this track this is definitely one of my favorite tracks of the franchise. These small changes really go a long way in the track. Not only
Fire hazard!
but it's also used to introduce a shortcut on the 3. use this massive chunk of land from the right map to a ball on lap 3 to reveal a small rain. This is such a cool way to expand the park again. I'm super happy with that. So while this track certainly didn't get updated as much as the last two, it really didn't need to be as was already great. The changes it did get only helped make the track better, so I think it's safe to say this is another fantastic track to discuss. I think I prefer
Don't be scared. Let the show begin.
Time for a light show.
One better track to end us on than N64. Let's get the S better. This is the best working retro track in lots, and heck, it may even be one of the best tracks. Mario Kart 8's original Rainbow Road has always just looked really dull. I know they wanted to go with the space station design, but I feel like they muted the colors too much. N64 Rainbow Road, though, gives its phenomenal bright colors and just makes it look gorgeous. On top of that, the background was made immensely more exciting here when compared to the original on the N64. That version is just floating off in space with a few drawings of some characters. In Mario Kart 8, though, this takes place over a city, which adds a lovely amount of light to the background. The character drawings were now also replaced by fireworks, which I think are significantly more interesting to look at. The Mario Kart 8 version also adds a flying over the track, which I don't really know why it was done, but it looks cool, so I like it. There is a very good reason this was chosen as the cover track for Mario Kart Deluxe. I really don't think any other track could have been better. Oh, and of course the music is fantastic here as well. I do think I prefer the 8 and 3DS Rainbow Road themes a bit more, but this is still a fantastic rendition of the song. Alongside its phenomenal aesthetic changes, though, this track got updated a ton. Believe it or not, though, the changes, or at least one change, is fairly common.
Stay close and you
There's
will
one
live.
thing the original N64 is known for, it's the length. This is by far the longest track in the Mario Kart
I'll bring my
franchise, on average
seasonings.
taking around 6 minutes to complete. Every other track is usually around 2 minutes, so yeah, this is a massive jump. So Mario Kart 8 decided to change this track to being one split into 3 sections, so you only have to complete the course one time as opposed to 3. While I can certainly understand why this may upset some people, I think this change is only a positive. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe one is paced significantly better, because if this was 6 minutes long, I feel like a lot of people would rather complain. This length of the original N64 was also made even worse by how boring the track was, which I think we should get into now. Starting off the race, we immediately get our first change being anti-gravity, which just fits so well around the road. In the original version of this track, it's just a big dip followed by a large hill. There's nothing to do here.
Come on, let's
So
go.
it's
There's a
surprisingly
fortune to be made.
the only somewhat interesting thing about this is that you can jump off the road and kind of float over it, but other than that, yeah, this is super lame. Mario Kart 8, though, adds in a ton of speed balance, which is likely based on what Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road did, and then has the uphill section using lighter rain. This makes the race both feel faster paced, and it actually gives something for the players to try and hit as they make their way down the straightaway. The changes don't end there, though, as this turn is now an anti-gravity and has...
I charge a higher rate to meet outside
Once
the
again, giving
office.
players something to actually collect while they race. Those aren't the only important changes, though, as this highlights one major change to the track that I'm honestly shocked wasn't in the original. Rainbow Road is supposed to be the Mario Kart series' most difficult track, so why was the whole thing surrounded by guardrails in the N64 version? That removes pretty much all sense of challenge, which is why I was so happy Mario Kart 8 removed a large majority of them. Now you can actually fall off of turns, which makes taking them tightly all the more exciting. After this first turn here, we run into the track's first chain jump. Now believe it or not, this was actually in Mario Kart 64, where they would jump on the road. This was a fairly decent obstacle, but
As per our contract.
better. Now it bounces up and down off the track, causing it to become late. This gives the player a chance to get off the some extra speed, which is much more interesting than a standing straight. Tricky can also send the players flying directly into the chain jump, which gives a nice amount of risky. This acts as Mario Kart 8's ending for 61. Though as I already said, Mario Kart 64 is just a standard course.
The Temple of Wisdom.
This is a good time to say though that the anti-gravity really goes a long way with Mario Kart 8 and so on.
No touching.
There aren't
Motion to compel.
Morris, fight.
Same updates.
All hail.
Mario Kart 8 is
Come on.
of course,
Here's the good. This may hurt a little.
Incinerate.
Access denied.
The place right at the edge too, which can make it scary to go for since again, the biggest change here is that
Commit to memory.
such a great way to end a track, running straight into the finish. Yeah, this is one of the best remakes in the series. Before Rainbow Road might honestly be
Morris,
Rainbow Road ever, but this remake managed to save the track by actually giving it some.
This may hurt a
On
little.
top of that, it's also much shorter, meaning you aren't forced to race on it for any longer. what a fantastic way to get all this up. And when all four of these tracks are looked at together, you really can't see how this isn't just the best Retro Cup Mario Kart series it's ever seen. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you all really like the Banana Cup against that Dry Desert and hate me for saying the Lightning Cup was the best? Let me know in the comments. Honestly, the more I looked into this cup, the more I really liked it. I would have liked anyone to think this is the best Mario Kart Cup of all time. While none of the tracks here quite reached the best of the Star Cup for me, I do still think this was more consistently good, as it didn't have no shoals. Oh, and I should probably say, all of these tracks belong in S tier, except for Profit Slide, which I'm B tier. Sadly, I don't have a lot of time to edit this video, so I can't do the whole Mario Kart 8 level by level tier list right now, so just imagine. But anyways, subscribe on Super Smash, see you guys next time.
Next on the agenda. It is something of a luxury, but I love listening to the rain from the courtyard.
Gimme some balls. I'm a balls. Balls on. Wait until the ball shakes my balls. Never gonna get me out of that. I'm a little dust.
An assassin from our homeland, or a fool who trespasses upon the waters of Chainsaw. Coveting the shapes of the living, pure water can take on many forms. In this way, shall water deliver your punishment. The power of water is its ability to take any shape. Without solid ground, terrestrial creatures become simply helpless. The power of water is its ability to take any shape.
Born of ice and frost. What's this? Magic lamp! No touching. Didn't see that.
One who is ignorant of water's treasures fails also to comprehend its horrors.
Motion to compel. Inadmissible evidence.
Let's see what happens when you lose your foothold. The power of water is its ability to take any shape.
Must press on. I see everything. Sharing my knowledge.
As long as rain falls and rivers flow, water will exist forever.
Sucks. Every video game sucks. These are the worst games of 2022. Did you know there are still Dark Souls rip-offs coming out? Dolmen has less emotional impact as a game title than someone saying the word pudding.
Dolman tries to go for a sci-fi twist on the genre, but not very well. They're still using shields and axes, only they're spacey, but you can also just straight up use a gun against enemies, so it has even more identity crisis. The only things they could come up with for enemy designs are bug things and some kind of dude, I guess. I can't get over how much this camera whips around. I have the sensitivity turned down, and it's still this quick. Those are probably the nicest things I can say about it, since everything else is so painfully generic that I'd rather buy the Kirkland Signature brand Dark Souls. It's so numbingly dull that you could play it for an hour, and you would have better success remembering your actual birth from the womb. All things that are bad in Dolman, the worst is the UI. Like, what is this? This placeholder bare minimum assets that they figured could be
Stay close and you will live.
It's barely legible.
Well,
It has no
since you
visual
asked
flair
so
whatsoever,
nicely.
which is weird for a sci-fi game. There's plenty of room to explore in the soul.
Don't
like
fear.
genre.
Yaya's
Dolman's
here.
going to be a great attempt at that because the space theme is a good idea. That's where the idea stopped, and they painted by the numbers instead. It still went outside of the lines. A lot of first-party Nintendo games came out this year that basically weren't even finished, yet they released them anyway. Of all of them, though, Nintendo Switch Sports is the most least done. Switch Sports released a grand total of only 6 different sports modes. Even as debatable, since one of them is tennis, the other is badminton, which play under the same. And
Squirrel,
volleyball is
Mark 2!
there is
Okay, right here. Emerge. Right here. Ready, go! Don't be scared! Nothing lasts forever. Emerge, right now. Stay clear. Illusion shattered. Torn to oblivion. Animal test 6308. Stay put. Emerge. Shine down. Now you shall perish.
Instead, Nintendo pushed out an unfinished product. No one suffered from it anyway, and they'll maybe fix it up later. Which sounds like a growing trend for them this year, huh? How is this a thing? How is it that Garfield, of all properties, somehow gets a new game like every single year? Is there a huge Garfield cult following that I thankfully don't know about? Don't answer that? I want to keep it that way. Garfield Lasagna Party is a party game starring a cat who hates Mondays and loves lasagna. Roll the dice, roll the board, play mini games to win lasagna, and whoever has the most lasagna at the end wins. It is entirely a Mario Party rip. And by that I mean, some of the games you play are straight up ripped off from Mario Party. The worst offender is that it's just dull. It's like a Mario Party game with any iota of energy and excitement sapped out of it. Turns take a really long time, moving around the board barely matters, you can't interact with your opponent in meaningful
Let's
ways,
go out and
and most of
play.
the mini-games are just boring. It isn't aggravating or rage-inducing, it's just that
It's
playing
time
it is
to
so
pull the trigger.
Let's do some math since we're comparing it to Mario
Let's
Party.
get this
Any
show
given
on the
Mario Party
road.
game will have, what, some 6 or more playable characters, 5 or more game boards,
You
at least
want me
60
on your
minigames.
team?
Comparatively, Garfield Lasagna Party has exactly 4 playable characters, only 1 game board, and exactly 32 minigames. It also doesn't have online play at all, despite coming out for Steam and Nintendo Switch. And the asking price is $40. Do you know how much
Right.
actual lasagna you can get with $40? Well, in this economy, like 1.5. Oh, love Dragon Ball. It's always flying around, punching and flattening out energy waves, man. It's so sweet. You would
Get out of here!
Dragon Ball game if you got to play as this guy.
Flags up.
Dragon Ball
Observe.
The Breakers, the first Dragon Ball game where you play as
Quietly
a
now.
regular as human. Blower, Cheetah, not even Krillin. You will literally play as a complete rando, zero powers or abilities.
Game's
Your
up.
goal is to run around the
Time's
map
over.
and set up a bunch
Gotcha.
of giant
Whatever.
nukes
Quietly
and help
now.
you plug yourself in with all
Fuse is
your
lit.
This is all the while an actual PvC villain tries to find and murder you. It's just Dead by Daylight, but with a Dragon Ball spin. What an
Go Bishop,
unfun
go!
concept for a PvC game. And 9
Take it
times out of
easy.
100, you're running around hoping to find the randomly correct blocks to find important items and try to escape.
Flags fly.
While the player
Observe.
is the villain can literally destroy entire
Could it
parts of
break?
There's also
Curse.
3 maps, and they all
I-
look
I
pretty much
swear,
the same.
these guys
8
hurt
players
hard.
are screwing around like idiots, while 1 player
Fire
is like
hazard.
what feels like an individual Dreadfall game. However, the souls of known powerful warriors and use their abilities.
Busted.
Temporarily take on the
Quietly
characteristics
now.
of pretty much any most character you can think of to fight back against them. This only lasts like a minute, and if you get hurt during the transformation,
Here
it'll
comes the
last like
catch.
6 seconds. So you get
Your
maybe
grand
1
finale.
minute, some people
Observe.
fun to do, maybe give it 15-minute match. Here's the kicker though.
A
Most
festival
hero souls you get,
ends.
you acquire them through a gotcha system. Use your coins and tickets to get selected hero souls of power levels and movesets. This means you might get something like a 5-star rare Goku, or you might get 3 of the same Yamchas. It also means there's like 8 different currencies in the game. Normal Seni, hero tickets, season tickets, special tickets, whatever TP stands for. This is also that you might get the hero and powers you want, and of course, you can also spend real money to purchase more of the best currency to get more hero souls. So yes, it actually is pay to win. And there's also a battle pass. Level up to get some stuff or whatever and complete your daily missions for your battle pass. Don't wanna? Spend real money to skip levels. I can see how some people could have fun with this, in the same way that if you were stuck in a forest completely naked, you could find some way to have fun with a piece of tree bark. It wouldn't be so bad for a free-to-play game. But it isn't free. On top of everything else, you have to buy it.
Bruh.
Why must so many franchises make ill-fated attempts to go Battle Royale? Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier is yet another Final Fantasy VII game. Only this time, it's one of those player shift games map gets smaller. You drop down in the middle of the map, run around and find chests to, what else? Get different items, you can find other players and shoot them. Last one standing wins, and again remember, this is a Final Fantasy game. It's also available only on
Gotcha.
mobile, which means trying to play a fast-paced third-person shooter using touchscreen controls. That's why there's so much crap all over the
Busted.
screen. There's more HUD here than there is gameplay. And yes, it does quite unfit than looks. Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. At no point did I think they would
Time
use
for a
it
light
as
show.
an excuse to further exploit everyone's nostalgia for it by releasing more shitty spin-off games. It's not even remotely RPG-based or really has anything remotely familiar to Final Fantasy fans. It's also only on mobile, which was dumb because anyone who loves Final Fantasy is also interested players.
The fuse is lit.
Really, who was this game for? Okay, so technically, this one came out right at the very end of 2021, but it was late enough that I'm just gonna count it for 2022 because we announced back in October Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier is closing down in a couple of months. It hardly lasted a single year. Should we just assume that Activision Blizzard is going to show up on this list every year? Potentially more than once? Overwatch 2 isn't on this list strictly because it's an awful game and it isn't fun. In fact, mostly the opposite. It's more Overwatch, and for a lot of people, Overwatch is really fun. However, it's been just lost to make Overwatch 2 happen that makes it so despicable. Overwatch 2 essentially packages the original game just so they can update the monetization of it. Before, infamously, it was tons of loot boxes and random rewards. They got rid of all that and went with the current style of our time, the Battle Pass. When previously, anytime an all-new hero was released for the game, everyone would instantly get it. Now you must acquire them through the Battle Pass, meaning having to play for hours and hours just to play as a new character. The Battle Pass isn't just cosmetics or emotes or whatever. Now it's locking away essential gameplay components. They're also just
Things are about to get dicey.
to warrant the two in
Strike is
Overwatch 2.
one.
There's less
I
stuff
leap.
available than the
I'm going
You'll be
in.
playing a lot of the same maps as
Fire hazard.
previous characters that we had before are now locked behind mundane progression and playtime requirements. Blizzard made a big deal that this was going to have all new cooperative
Let's get
PvP
repaid.
modes, which honestly is what I'm looking forward to the most.
Quietly now.
Co-op mode is
Gotcha.
nowhere to be seen and nowhere inside of it.
Observe
And upon its
your
release,
grand finale.
it took Overwatch
Teamwork
1
is
off
dream
and
work.
put a bullet between its eyes.
Game's up.
The servers were
Game's
shut
over.
down.
The fuse is lit.
No longer released.
Infinite
Forcing everyone
guilt.
to play the new sequel that has less game in it. Also, remember when you were forced to get Overwatch 2 your phone
Infinite
number
guilt.
just to be able to play it? Talk about privacy incursion.
Busted.
Things like that.
Quietly
now
now.
knows where I live, and if I turn up dead,
I'm
remember, it was a murder.
Get out of here. Time for a light show.
This isn't the remake that anyone asked for, yet it is. The arcade classic Houses of the Dead got remade for Nintendo Switch and basically made worse in every way.
Gotcha.
Most obvious being that the game is just ugly. It's supposed to be
Busted.
HD remastered, and it looks worse in every way. Character models have that
Feels
deep
like-
Unity acid flip game kind of quality, like they have a certain sheen that makes it look rough and polished. I
on that
prefer
wouldn't work.
the old polygonal jank of the arcade original to this. It also has constant frame rate problems, which gets troublesome during a twitchy light gun shooter with lots of enemies on the screen. You can swap it into performance mode to make the frame rate better, but then the characters and environments look even worse. I can feel the 720p every second I'm playing this. The weirdest thing is that there is no good control scheme for this on the Switch. You can either do the slow analog stick aiming, which is not good, or the more ideal gyroscope motion controls. While it's better, it still isn't great. Mostly because while you're adjusting your controller to precisely aim, whenever you press the shoot button, you will move the controller ever so slightly. The gyro aiming is so sensitive that this will make your cursor tweak a little, making you miss your shots. This gets especially problematic during intense boss fights with very small weak points. This remake was
Still
just
so many
so
places for us to
unnecessary. I
explore.
would rather just play a straight arcade port, or even a port of the Wii port of House of the Dead 2 and 3.
Don't tell me they did it again.
Before I say anything else, I want you to know, this is on the Nintendo Switch eShop. Waifu Impact is... what is it?
What?
Supposed to be parodying or trying to capitalize on Genshin Impact? I honestly have no idea. The only thing you do is play as an anime girl running around an island filled with dozens of another anime girl who are all exactly the same, and you shoot each other with literal super soakers while they make this noise. That's it. That's the entire game. You can find stars, which unlocks other quote-unquote waifus, and they can have different weapons at least. What's the point of unlocking all these waifus when they all look the same? They all have boobs so big that you can see the sides of them from the back, and none of them have any ass. Get this though, get enough kills with any waifu, and you unlock additional art galleries of them. Which you would think, awesome, that sounds horny and right up my alley. But the extra galleries are just really unflattering still shots of their awful character models. Like, look at this one. She's actually a pretty cute waifu in this art. But the unlock you get for her is, oh god.
Oh god.
This is the difference between when you take a selfie of yourself and takes a photo of. Oh, if you manage to squirt down enough waifus, you'll get a message saying that there is now a super waifu. What could that possibly be? It's a boss fight, alright. Against the exact same waifu you've been shooting the whole time, only now she's bigger. I can't believe I'm saying this, but defeating the super waifu gets you unlockable characters. I do not understand how this of all games gets allowed on the Nintendo eShop, and no one bats an eye. I played this for way longer than I really should have on stream, and I'm embarrassed for it. Here you go, chat! I hate chat, fuck you. What have you done? Did she just scream daddy? No. And I made a promise
Wait,
to
what?
you, and I'm
I thought
embarrassed
she
for
said
it.
happy.
Here you go, chat! I hate chat, fuck you. What have you done? Did she just scream daddy? No. If I ever get 2,000 Twitch subscribers, I will 100% this game on stream. I am committing to that. 2,000 Twitch subs, and Waifu Impact will get 100%ed by me, or as much as
Here's something to spend my class more on, since I'm almost... It's Sunday, and I still haven't done that.
Maybe the most spectacular failure of the year. It came from Square Enix, a beloved publisher, and from Platinum Games, a beloved developer, and it just sucks so bad. Babylon's Fall is a cooperative, online-only slasher RPG that runs through dark fantasy.
Oh my
world.
fucking god, I
It
can't
does
believe
dudes
you've done
get
this.
stuff and make numbers go up. Imagine something described as that being as boring as possible, then further strip away anything interesting from that. Everything is ugly. Every area and stage is bland or repetitive. You run through one hallway only to run through another minutes later as your consciousness snaps back to reality, and you question if you blacked out and lost some time of your life. Character models have funny textures and look like placeholders waiting to be swapped out with no intention of actually doing so. It's one of those games where every single dude you fight is just a huge bar of health that sponges up your attacks until they finally die. All you do is fight stuff until you get new equipment to make numbers go up to fight boring, unfun damage sponges over and over again. Recall, however, that Babylon's Fall was online only. There is no single player or offline play whatsoever. It's also one of those games with Square Enix.
I'll take good care of everyone.
It was never about delivering a strong game. It was establishing means of monetizing it. Basically, Square Enix took their last disappointing live service game, Marvel's
Something on your mind again?
and then tried to do it again with Platinum Games and Fantasy VII. And if that wasn't enough to copy, Babylon's Fall also reused assets like armor and weapons straight from critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV. It was released back in March on the exact same day as Elden Ring, and in February 2023, the servers are being shut down. Less than a year, without servers, there is no way to play Babylon's Fall. It is being effectively deleted from game. So what does Platinum Games have to say about all of this? They're sorry. And there it is! The second time Blizzard is on the list! Diablo Immortal is a mobile-focused Diablo game that was met with such contempt from gamers, prompting the legendary response from Blizzard of, "Don't you guys have phones?"
The weather is lovely and warm.
It's a Diablo game.
Things are about to
Meeting
start
your
getting
character,
lively
enemies of
again.
hell, seeing lots of numbers pop up, and constantly picking up troves of loot for incremental power boosts. I even argue that it's actually kind of fun and works surprisingly well as both a Diablo game and as a mobile game.
Let me try.
Things are about to get dicey. Gotcha. Quietly now.
It is intentionally confusing and obtuse and outright stupid. To give an idea, there are over 20 different types of currency in the game, from money to upgrade materials to unlocks or whatever. There is also fundamentally not one, not two, but 3 different battle passes of different unlocks. Things that would take 3 players literal months to obtain can be done in 5 minutes by paid players. Systems are implemented in such a way to legally get around the loot box laws of many countries, even though they're still essentially loot boxes, and Diablo Immortal still banned in a couple of countries because of its gambling-like practices. And all of these paid instances are only chances for rare items, not guaranteed, leading to reports such as one Twitch streamer having paid over $10,000 not getting the
Get with me.
desired.
Tiggity.
So
Here comes the catch.
Installed to psychologically manipulate users to be the fraud, to be the singular drive of profit, because the entire game was designed to incorporate as many microtransaction forms as possible. For a far deeper and more involved examination of this, I strongly recommend watching the legendary video by fellow YouTuber Josh Dryface, who deconstructed it at every scene better than I ever can. I'll put a link to it in the description. The most offensive thing about all of these transactions, though, every cosmetic, every rare crest unlock, every boon of plenty, or whatever the fuck it's called, each and every single battle pass is per character. Trying different classes or starting over fresh means everything you have paid for is completely separate from every single character you create. It isn't that Diablo Immortal plays bad, runs like ass, or is graphically awful, because it's all the opposite. However, it's that dishonest, sneaky, mendacious microtransactions and monetization that makes it actively hostile to its own player base. Diablo Immortal is not for games. It's made for wallets and bank accounts, making it a worst game of 2022.
Busted. Gotcha.
Our bond is strong. Out of my way.
Things are about to get dicey.
There's more! Let's get down to business!
Let's play turn a little.
Busted.
Highlight blade!
You, Blade!
Dissipate.
Grow!
Yes!
If you're not sure what...
Now I don't need to bother with Ride and Hyper Bloom. Unless I really, really want to.
In this video, I'm going to show you a great game.
10 months ago.
I'll show you how you can spend £20 to condense 6 months worth of free-to-play farming into 3 minutes, and how even if you do buy the 30-day item pack, you might not actually get the 30-day item pack. I'll show you the secret mathematical and psychological tricks the game uses to get you to spend money, including abusive pricing structures, multiple layers of RNG, and the 22 different in-game currencies. I'll explain how Diablo Immortal has got around the legal definition of the loot box by adding in a single gameplay step despite being functionally the same process. I'll explain how Diablo Immortal is essentially a gacha game and has hidden wealth mechanics you can't even find until you've invested enough money that they are sure they've got you. And then I'll lament over how if you removed all of this, it's actually a very good game. Let's start with the basics. Video game critique, especially on the internet, can be a difficult thing to balance. Fans of any game want you to praise it and can become angered when you point out flaws. And people who dislike the game love it when you point out flaws and hate it when you praise it. This is because video game communities contain very passionate people both for and against any game or company, and both extreme sides are often reading reviews or watching videos looking for confirmation bias, not actual critique. Most people want to be told what they already strongly believe is correct. The for and against Diablo Immortal camps have already sprung up, with some people focusing on the absurd cash shop and others saying you don't need to pay, it's a free game, just don't spend any money. The cash shop critics point out the blatant pay for advantage systems and daily login rewards encouraging addictive gameplay patterns, along with the loot box style gameplay so egregious it's already been preemptively banned in 2 countries for falling foul of the gambling laws, and the game supporters require the well-rehearsed
Quietly now.
It hasn't affected me. I'll be discussing with Dan if this general attitude is doing to the gaming industry as a whole
Gotcha.
later. The truth is, Diablo Immortal is an excellent gameplay experience with solid modes.
Our bond is strong.
Game's up. Fun's over.
It's absolutely overshadowed by a foundation-level serious monetization system
Stay put.
designed to make every aspect of the game funnel the player towards spending an absolutely unacceptable amount of money. But this goes deeper than just one game. So in this video, I'll not only deeply critique Diablo Immortal, but also the behaviours of an industry and how we as players can set the boundaries for what we will and will not accept in relation to monetization. I'll show you the deep psychological and mathematical tricks games companies are using to turn video games from products you purchase and enjoy because they're designed to be fun into processes they want you to become stuck within and then keep paying for because they're designed to be inviting and then addictive. I'll also be contrasting the design decisions within Diablo Immortal to Blizzard's own code of conduct and ethics on their own website. We'll see if Diablo Immortal has
Quietly now.
up to Blizzard's
Gotcha.
own self-imposed
Everyone go
standards.
here.
Grab a drink because this is quite a long video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strikos, and today we're
Things are about to get dicey.
Don't be skeptical.
A big thank you for all the support on Patreon and Twitch who allow me to remain independent and make videos like
Busted.
this. I'll be looking at the general gameplay plot and combat, then into the absolute plethora of monetization tricks the game uses, including gentle onboarding, limited time offers causing fear of missing out, abusive pricing structures, multiple steps of conversion, multiple stacking monthly subs, cumulative login days being required for paid for rewards, multiple progression tracks, and just straight up locking the main aspect Diablo is known for, dopamine spiking loot fountains shooting out of the boss behind a paywall. Now Diablo as a franchise is no stranger to monetization controversy. When Diablo 3 released, it had an actual money in-game marketplace. Players could sell their drops or buy drops from other players for actual cash. This was removed relatively quickly after extreme community backlash. As players pointed out, it was against the spirit of Diablo. The endgame gameplay of Diablo revolves around repeatedly killing high-intensity bosses as they increase in difficulty for the chance of a rare drop. If you could just buy the rare drop, you'd be defeating the main gameplay loop and removing the sense of pride and accomplishment which comes with having those rare drops. Diablo 3 released on PC and console in May of 2012, and 6 years later, in 2018 at BlizzCon, players were excited to hear news about Diablo 4. But what they got was Diablo Immortal, a mobile game. And that gave us this absolute classic moment in gaming history.
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Did you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have. I think it's important to realize BlizzCon is attended by Blizzard's biggest fans, mostly PC gamers. Warcraft, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, and Overwatch have massive PC player bases, so very few of those people are actively excited about a mobile game. The people in that room wanted a game which would push their hardcore gaming PCs to the max and not be full of traditional mobile microtransactions and time-gating mechanics. In June of 2022, Diablo Immortal released mobile and went into beta on PC.
Where are we dancing today?
It's a port of the mobile game and still features such lines as tap to play. The game does feature cross-platform play, so mobile and PC players can adventure together, provided
I thought it was being called.
they're on the same server because it does not have cross-server play. So I downloaded the game on PC and gave it a go. The first warning cry for everyone said, the game can track your face through your phone app or your webcam. Now this rumor began when the installation files were opened up and people found Face Detector and FaceAnalyzer.dll. Some people said the game has face tracking capabilities because it's required for release in China to conform to the strict gaming laws. However, the lead dev Adam Fletcher explains they're actually leftover files from an early idea in Diablo Immortal's development. Originally, the game would let you recreate your own facial expression on your character by using your own camera. This idea has been abandoned because it was terrible. The intro movie plays, Tyrael talks about the World Stone, some great and evil, and then we get this absolute banger of a line.
We can do this!
If humanity is to survive, they must stand together and face the rising darkness.
I find it beautifully ironic that Diablo Immortal opens with a call for players to rally together against a rising evil, and the main thing it's inspired people to do is come together against its atrocious pricing model. What a meta way to succeed. Get told to tap the screen with 40 mobile games to PC is hard, and then choose a class. 6 classes, I'm going with my edgy boy, the Demon Hunter. The customization is actually really nice. We move some sliders. Unfortunately, these do not matter at all because you'll never look at your own face or any other character's face, but then on a boat to worth them. The game is fully voiced and it's not terribly acted.
Gone too well, you say? In the right place then.
Hi,